This is a tutorial of the Castles of Burgundy, a Stefan Feld game that is about dice placement and action selection. Here we have a 2-player game, but it can play up to 4. The Castles of Burgundy is played over 5 phases, seen here A, B, C, D, and E, and each phase has 5 rounds in it, so a total of 25 rounds, and a round is each player taking their turn doing an action with 2 dice that they are rolling. These are randomly rolled in the real game. Here they are rolled for you. There's also a white die that is rolled by whoever is the current first player, and that white die determines which one of these goods, or where each one of these goods is placed. So the first one that was rolled was a 3, and so this first good was placed in this 3 box that can be then collected through various actions. Again, on your turn, you are spending the 2 dice that you have to take a certain action. You can also pay money to take an extra action, and then other various things will allow you to take actions and do other types of things. Notice that I have a tile here in the middle. So you start out with a castle tile, and we'll explain what that does later. But the board that you will get will be random. There is a starting board if it's your first time that they recommend. Otherwise, it'll be one of 7 or 8 random boards of arrangements of different colors and die numbers. And you decide on which of these dark green tiles you place your first castle, which is where you start building from. I placed mine in the middle. This player placed theirs on the very right. There are 4 different things that you can do with a die, and they involve taking the tiles that are available on the board here, which is refreshed every phase of the game. They involve placing tiles on the map. They involve selling goods that you may have collected, or gaining workers, which allow you to adjust a die one higher or one lower. We'll go through each of those steps, and those are explained here. Because you have 2 die, you get to do each of those things 2 times. That's what this taller symbol starting represents here. So on your turn, you can use these dies to first of all take tiles that exist in the board here for this phase. And obviously the number on the tile has to match the number of the tile that you can take. Now the really nice thing about the BGA implementation of this is that whenever you click on one of your die, and in order to take any action you have to click on a die to do that, whenever you click on a die, everything that you can possibly do is highlighted in green. So you can see here when I click that die, it says, oh, you could take either one of these because they're they're by the 1 box. It also says, oh, but you can take these and these as well. Now why would that be? Well, because you could use your 1 worker here to adjust that 1 and change it to a 2, or you can roll it back over to a 6. If you had 2 workers, you could change it to a 2, 3, or 5 as well, though you might want to do that with your 4 instead so that it's closer to it and you're not using up those workers. So on your turn, the first thing that you can do is take one of these tiles and put it here in your holding area. You can have up to 3 tiles here that are held before they're put onto your board. If this is full, you can still take a tile, but you would have to get rid of one of the 3 that is there. Once you have a tile in your area, so let's say I used my 4 to take this blue tile. Once it's in your area, you can use a die to place it on your board, and where you place it has to match both the color of the tile and the number of the die. So if I click here, then I can select this to place it, and it'll show me where I can place it. The tile that you place has to touch a tile that exists there currently. That's why we placed that castle there to begin with. So that has to be connected to that, adjacent to that tile or any other tile that you've placed. So on my opponent's turn, they would have to place one in one of these three tiles. But I can place it here because of the 1, or again, I can place it here as on the 2 because I have this worker that could change that 1 to a 2 and place it here. I believe in this case, I place it on the 1, and that is my second action for that. You take both of your actions with your dice, and then your opponent takes both of their actions. Whoever goes first, they will always take both of their actions, and then the other player will take both of their actions. And the way that you determine who goes first is this chart over here. This chart that is actually affected by those blue tiles, but whoever is farther ahead is the first player each time. There's definitely an advantage to being the first player. You get often first choice in the tiles that are there, and if later red played a blue tile that would let them go up on the track, then they would go on top of me, and if both players are on the same track, then the player who is on top is the first player. And we continue to go back and forth and playing these dice. So they did the same sort of thing where they took a die, or they took a tile and played it at the same time. You don't have to play the tile as soon as you get it. You could take 2 tiles, or you could take no tiles and play 2 from your storage, but it always has to come from the board first to your storage area, and then you have to use another die to place it on your board. All right, let's talk a bit about what the various tiles do. There are 6 different colors of tiles, matching the 6 different colors on the board, and they all score and in different ways, and they have different actions in different ways. So the very simplest one is these mines. If you have a mine tile like this gray here on one of the mine spaces, for each one that you have, and there's a total of 3 that you can get, anytime you go to a new phase, you get that much silver. Silver is fairly hard to come by, so that can be very valuable. If you get a tile on the mine on your first phase, that ends up being 5 silver that you end up over the course of the game, which is very useful for buying extra tiles, which we'll talk about in a minute. These dark green castle tiles, whenever you place a tile on that, and it has to be one of these green castle tiles, you immediately get to play another free action, and you can make it whatever number die that you want. It could be taking any one of these. It could be placing any one of these to whatever number that you like. It gives you just a bonus action whenever you play on those. The blue shipping tiles we talked a little bit about before, and not only whenever you place a blue tile does it allow you to move up this track, which controls first player, but it also lets you take goods from one of these shipping areas. Now currently there's only one in there because when I played that, I took the one that existed because it was the only one there, and I put it in my cargo hold. But as the game goes on, these will continue to build up in these various places, and so there could be 2 or 3 or 4 even pieces of or goods in a single cargo hold, and so putting that blue ship down would get you all of that cargo. Cargo then comes over here, and you have 3 spots for cargo, and you can only put 1 type of cargo in each spot, but you can stack it as much as you want. However, if you get a new type of cargo and you don't have room for it, you either have to replace the cargo you have or not take it, or just discard it instead. You can sell this cargo through another action, through a separate dice action, and you get points and silver from doing that. In fact, if I were to use that 1 and sell this green here as my dice action, I would get 2 points because it's a 2-player game, and I would get 1 silver. In this case, if I used a 3 for this one, I would get 4 points, 2 times 2, but I would still only get 1 silver. You only get 1 silver anytime you sell, but the points will increase the more goods that you sell. All right, so those are the shipping tiles that you can place. The animal tiles, so these are these light green ones. You get points for the animal tiles based on the number of animals that are on the tile. So in this case, it's 4 sheep. If I place 4 sheep, I get 4 points. Here, it's 2 goats. I only get 2 points. And here, I would get 3 points for the 3 cows. However, if you connect the same type of animal, so if I put these sheep down here, and then in a later play, I put sheep next to it, I would not only get points for the sheep I placed down, but points for all of the connected sheep. So you can really chain those animal tiles and get a lot of points out of them. So I put 4 here the next time, but maybe I find a 3 sheep tile next time, and I put a 3 sheep tile next to it. Instead of 3 points, I would get 7. 3 for that one, plus the 4 that it's connected to. You don't have to connect into the same type of animal, but that's how you get the most points out of them. The yellow tiles are one of 2 things. Either they are some special ability that kind of grants you something that you can do throughout the course of the game, or they're a way to score points at the end. So for instance, this yellow tile, there's a rule, and we'll get into the city tiles here, but in one group of city you can't have the same different types of cities. This one lets you do that anyway. You can ignore that rule if you have this placed in your area. Whereas this one just says for every of the certain type of city tile, in this case an estate/duchy, you get an extra 4 points at the end of the game. So you will place these yellow ones as they come out, and they will grant you either special powers or ways to ignore rules or change rules, or points at the end of the game. And finally, the city tiles. These are the various buildings that you see here in brown. They are the most common, and there are 6 different types of them, I believe. And like I said, you can only have one of each type in a grouping of these a grouping of this brown color. So these can't be the same, and none of these 5 could be the same. These 3 and these 3 couldn't be the same, and these 2 couldn't. Each of these buildings gives you something when you place it. So here's one of those. Oh no, that's not the estate duchy, but this one, this boarding house, whenever you place it, you just get 4 workers. That's nice. Here, this one, when you place it, you can also take either a mine, castle, or yellow tile from anywhere on the outside of the board, not the inside, but the outside. So if there's one there, you can take it and put it in your storage area whenever you place the church. This one here, you can take an animal or ship tile in the same way. Some of them give you points or silver, or I forget what the others do, but they all will tell you what they do in each case. And when you place them, they give you that action. Those are the various tiles. A couple more things that you should note. I talked a little bit about these areas of color that I talked about. Whenever you fill in a full area of a color, so if I were to add this 6 here, in fact, I believe I do that. I go to that one, I take that one, and I fill it with that 6. That gives you a number of points based on the round that you're at. So in this instance, I received 13 points. And the way that you get those points is basically you take the size of the completed section, which was 2, and you look that up here. In this case, there's the 3 points. And then you take the phase that you're in and add that number of points there. So 10 plus 3 is 13. Basically, you just remember that when you finish these earlier, you get better bonuses. But if they're larger sections, like a 5, that one gets 15 points for finishing that up as well. And there are some, like in this board, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, could get up to 36 points if he were able to fill that whole section in. So some different boards have different scoring opportunities for filling in those regions. Additionally, if you fill in all of the regions of a certain color, so if I were to fill in all of the dark greens or all of the yellows or all of the light greens, then you take a bonus tile here and get an extra 5 points at the end of the game. If you were the first one to do that, you get 5 points. If you do it and you're not the first, you do still get points. You get 2 points instead. Again, this is all set up for a 2-player game. 3-player, there are some differences in points and available tiles, but everything else basically stays the same. So that is taking a tile, placing a tile, filling in regions, activating powers, whatever that might be. The other two things that you can do with a die are sell a good, like we talked about. You get 2 points in a 2-player game, 3 and a 3 and 4 and 4 for each tile that you sell, plus 1 silver, period. And then the final thing you can do with a die is just get 2 workers. If there's just nothing else that's great to do with, you just don't have any great options otherwise, get 2 workers, and that'll let you be more flexible in future turns with your die. So you can always use as many workers as you want to change a die to whatever number that you want. If you had 4 workers, you basically can change one die into anything else, right? Because you could take it here and go 1, 2, even with 3 workers, 1, 2, 3, and move it all the way over. You try to want to be efficient with those workers because you have to use an entire die, entire half of your turn to get 2 more, or there's sometimes ways to get more, like these certain tiles that you can get. But if that's all you can do, then that can be a good option to just simply get 2 more workers. So those are the 2 actions with your dice. You spin a die to either take a tile, place a tile, sell goods, or get 2 workers. Now additionally, which is explained here, you can spend 2 silver once per turn to take one of these tiles in the middle. And these are also refreshed every phase. These tiles are separate from these. They come in the physical game, they come from a completely different pile. They cost 2 silver, and you stick them just directly into your holding area. That's it, and then they're ready to be placed. You don't have to have a certain die for a number for them. You can just take them and place them in your area with another action. So in that sense, if you have silver, you could kind of take 3 actions on your turn, right? Where you buy one of these die or one of these tiles in the middle, and then place the tile for one of your dice, and take another tile or place another tile as your second die. And that way, kind of having a longer turn. Otherwise, it is just back and forth with those 2 dice actions that you take all the way through. Whenever this runs out, you go to the next phase. Everything that wasn't taken is cleared out, and then everything is filled in. You notice that these tiles always contain certain types of these spots always contain certain types of tiles. Like there will always be a blue one here, and always be green ones here and here. And you continue to go through that through the end of the game, through each of the phases. All right, let's talk a little bit about some of the other advantages that BGA offers when playing this game. Again, the biggest one is being able to click on one of your dice, and it's showing you all the various things that you can do. But it is confusing though at first. Getting used to this interface, you always have to select a die first before you want to take the action. Like if I see this one that I have a one here, and I have a worker, and so I'm like, well, I'm going to take this two here. Obviously, I'm going to use my one because that's the only one I have left. But if I try to click on this first, it'll say you must select a die first. You always select a die first. And I think this is helpful because it does show you all of your options. Like it says, hey, you could sell this good here. If I didn't mention before, you can only sell goods if they match the number there. I can't use this one to sell the 3. I can sell the 1. I only have one worker, so I couldn't turn it into a 3. So that is a restriction on the selling as well. But whenever you select that die, it'll show you what you can do. In this case, I can take these. I can't take the 1s. There's no 1s left, but I could take the 2s, and there's no 6s left. And so always select the die first so that you can see what you can do and see it says, oh, you can click here and perform an action as well. There are some great help sections on the board here. This one right here lets you scroll through and see all the various different types of tiles. Here are it's 8 different types of these city tiles, and going over and you can see kind of the icons for them, and also when you hover over them, see what they do. Talks about what the different colors are building tiles, not city tiles, I should have said. And it has this scoring here for you. There's a specific tile help here that you can click on any of these. This is good for if you're on a mobile device. You can select these instead of trying to hover. Hovering is always weird on mobile devices, and it'll explain how each of those tiles help. This section is when tiles are not used at the end of a phase. It will show them there. We're not at the end of a phase yet, but it'll show which ones have been discarded. That can be helpful for just knowing, hey, am I ever going to see a gray tile again? In fact, I might have been mistaken in terms of what colors come out. I would have to check that, but tiles are limited, and so you're not necessarily going to see, you are only going to see a certain number of different types of tiles on each round. I believe these, I'm fairly certain that these colors mean every phase a new blue tile will come. But again, only one will, and so you have to count on these center tiles if you need an extra one. And if I needed a mine, but my opponent already took this one, I'm gonna hopefully, like in this case, there's one in the middle I can take, and I have the money for it. At the end of the game, and this will also track your score over the game. It won't track any of these end of game scores here, but those will be calculated at the end. You have some options here that give you some variations on the visuals of it. You can turn tooltips off. With this replay, I can't quite show those, but it gives you some visual options for what the board looks like if you need to be able to zoom in more. Otherwise, that is the game. Going back and forth, placing dice, using dice to take tiles, placing tiles using dice, selling goods, getting workers, getting silver, trying to build out that board as quickly as possible, get those bonuses, start building those things up, and at the end of the game, whoever has the most points wins. Hope this is helpful.